impacts at the bar.
Right.
So I would always show up and I'd pretend I'm, looking at my watch, waiting for my friend to show up, which was never gonna happen.
Right.
And then I'd be able to work both of the girls, and of course I would close with, geez, you know what? I gotta just go home and let my puppy out. I'm gonna come right back. Oh, you have a puppy? You have a puppy? Meanwhile, my dog was using a walker at this point. She was like 13, but it didn't matter. You have a puppy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. We'll be right. I tell your friend we'll be right back. Okay. You'll bring me right back. I promise we're gonna bring you right back. Go home. My dog would come to the door with his walker. But he knew, he knew his job.
He knew to play the game.
Started, he gets, he worked up, gave him a little Geritol, a little testosterone. He was able to kind of get it moving, and he put on the show, and that was it. That's
a pretty good move.
It was a great move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The opposite. You're old enough to remember.
I don't know why the girls go crazy over the dogs.
Well, here's was the opposite of that. You're old enough to remember. The thing that used to signify the end of the night, I don't know when this stopped, but somewhere in the 90s where it stopped, was she could not stay anywhere or stay out because she had to go home and take her contacts out. Remember that? They couldn't leave their contacts in overnight. There was a point where it was like, oh my God, they'll go blind.
You got the contacts excuse?
So I went and bought the whole Bausch and Lomb kit. I had it all. I'm like, no, I've got the saline. And they're like, oh. Okay. But when they say I have to go home and let my dog or take my dog out, you can't go with them.
Right.
You can't be like, I'll go with you. It's too forward. So that's still a foolproof thing for the ladies. But if you used to be like, hey, I got to go walk my dog. You want to come? You want to see my dog? That is a good, they're almost always going to want to see the dog.
Always. Always.
I like that.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah. We have a woman down the end. Would you be okay? Is that a good move? You could.
Yeah. I was thinking.
Yeah.
You had a lot of nerves there.
Well, it's not, but if he actually had a dog.
You get a good thing, you stick with it, right?
Right. We had a dog because I've told this story before. We have this guy who came to one of our shows, and he used to go to the dog park to meet girls, to pick up girls.
Yeah.
And when the girls said, which one is yours? He would say, I used to come here with Rusty.
Ooh, that's good.
There was no Rusty, but they ate it up. And then let
me write this down.
Right.
Let me write this down.
It was foolproof, right? There was no Rusty.
That's good.
But they were like, oh my God. And then, would you like to play with my dog? He's like, this is the way me and my dog used to. Yeah. Home run.
That's good stuff.
So you couldn't quite trust her. We have a lot on the mic. She's running the controls, but she's going to chime in here.
I am just real fast because I just want the world to know that whenever they make a comment, they just like look at me like, oh gosh, what is she going to say about this?
Right. Well, I mean, we're open, but I mean, we're not neutered here, but yeah. So,
women, I got you.
Okay. But the women have their shit. So the opposite of that, which is really fucked up dating. So we go out with some positivity, or we have back in the day when we were young, swinging single dudes. We would go out with some way to make something happen. Mm-hmm. Now the problem is, especially by the women, they go out with some way to get this over with. They go out with some way to, I'm going to be able to get out of this dinner in 15 minutes if I'm not feeling the chemistry. I have my friend on speed dial. Right. I have 3 extra excuses to do. Right. Oh, my dog is sick. I have that. That's really hurt dating because people are going out, they're dating out of fear on one hand, but it's almost like they're dating out of pessimism. And so if you're going into a date and thinking, okay, here are my 6 emergency exits off of this thing. Here's how I get off this freeway quicker than later. That's a bad way to date because it's not a hopeful way to date. And I still think the guys, when they do date, and statistically it's backed up by this, they're hoping it works out. 72% of men, when they go out with somebody the first time, want to go out with her second time. 39% for the women. It's the opposite. They're looking, the very first thing I ever said on this show was the women look for red flags and the men look for green lights. And I stand by that. And I think that's a bad way to date. And it's worse than ever. Women didn't used to go out with, now they're like, I don't want him to pick me up in case I got to leave. Well, you didn't used to date that way. We used to have to pick you up.
Right.
And you were like, we would hope to have a good time together.
Well, today I think the women prefer to meet you because
they don't want to fully commit to even an hour with you.
Right. They want to know they can get out. They want
to know they can get out. Right. And we were psychos back then, clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
And so, but they still like, well, maybe it'll get better, or I'll try talking about this, or let's go have a drink, or something. There was more optimism in dating and in the actual dates, and that that the guys can feel that now. The guys, when they go out on a date with you, her, ladies, the ones listening here, they can sense if you're not willing to give it a chance, and they're nervous already. That's going to make them more nervous. They're afraid of fucking up. They've heard 100 times that you want them to be funny. They'll sell a stupid joke trying to be funny, and it all spirals out of control before. It used to be a much more relaxed scenario because it's almost like, you know what? I've committed to 2.5 hours with this person. I'm going to try and make it work. And that's the difference in dating now, that even the dates now are like, it's a very ADD dating culture. Oh my God, I had one night to give this guy, in 15 minutes now I'm going to see if I can salvage it and get somebody else.
What's the purpose of dating? Is it to get married? The listeners on this show, is that the end goal here?
The purpose of dating. So there's 3 purposes of dating, I think, that we've come across. First of dating is, some people believe dating is on its own is a positive interaction, and positive social interaction, and there doesn't need to be a cause beyond that. It can be self-contained thing. I go on dates because I want to enjoy time with one person. That's a small percentage of the pool, but some people do that. The rest of the people are dating to hope to find and connect with that one person that you're going to spend the rest of their life with. I think that's why people date. I think that's why people should date. And I think no matter how well the first 15 minutes goes or how badly the first 15 minutes goes, you're not going to be able to determine that right away.
Right.
You know? So you're going to have to, if it's the most amazing 15 minutes ever, you're going to keep it going, obviously, to do that. But if it's a terrible 15 minutes, you got to give it another 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes instead of like, he said this and now it's even worse because when people date now, or as we tape this, we're sort of coming out of the COVID world. A lot of people were very comfortable when they met for the first time to give a hug or something, or a warm hug, first date. Now it's like everybody's so not used to physical contact that is almost a, hey, how you doing? What are we doing here?
Depends what state you're in.
I don't know. I think all the states are definitely more hesitant to make contact for everybody than we were 18 months ago.
Okay.
I think that's trickled down to the dating. You know, if you're not shaking hands with your coworkers or your business meetings, you're already one step away from physical contact with other human beings by the time you get into the dating world. So everything's a little more distant than it was, which is fine. We just have to be cognizant of it, and we got to work it. I got to take a quick break so I have money for all this stuff, but we will be back right after this. And we are back. I'm here with Andy Rudnick, and we're trying to solve the dating quandary. Overall, what's it like? So let me get back to this break. So your wife's like, get out. I don't like you. Hit the road.
Before we get into all that, I just want to come back to what we were talking about when we first got started in terms of men today being...
Your unicycle?
Not my unicycle, okay. But men being pussies, as you said.
Yeah.
And I just want to give men advice out there. Okay, I'm 57 years old. I've been around, married 20 plus years. Got the hall pass during the marriage.
Give or take a year.
I recommend that to a woman. The best gift a wife can give a husband, by the way. Okay,
a year off.
Hall pass here and there. Our marriage is better now than it was before, quite honestly. But that's a whole other issue. I'm not going to talk about that. What I do want to talk about is helping these men with these women. Okay, I believe, and again, when I decided I wanted to get married and I wanted that full commitment, I didn't want to waste time. And on that first date, I was pretty direct in terms of where I want to live and what I'm looking for. You know, some women might not take it well and you might lose out, but that wasn't going to work out anyway. Because if it's going to work, she would have been fun. She would have thought you were cute and funny, and you would have been able to get away with being direct. But guess what? You cut through so much crap and save so much time if you just lay it out. Now, of course, if you're on that date and that woman, you look at her and she's just not what you thought she was going to be. You're gonna do what you have to do to get out of there, right? But
like what?
Like,
appendicitis?
It's something. Come up with some. Go to the bathroom and never come back or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what they do, but. I just think that men need to be more direct, not be afraid to be direct. Women want them to be direct.
They do.
They don't need to beat around the bush. Just waste time.
They want you to call it a date. They want you to call them your girlfriend.
Right.
They want you to
Women want to get. Women are looking. Well, I think everyone's looking for companionship, right?
Right.
The question is, is everyone looking for marriage? Marriage is a big commitment, and I know that men, especially you, Howie, you could definitely agree. I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but
I think marriage.
As you get older,
and
you've never been married, the thought of getting married must scare the crap out of you.
No, it doesn't.
You don't want to get married.
I don't say that. It's not about married. It's why do you, it's then you got to take it a step further. It's what do you want marriage for?
Kids.
And then right. I don't want that.
Then don't get married.
Correct. But there's also something to be said for we are in this together for 50 years or 60 years. There's something to say you're different from all the girlfriends. So if somebody, like at some point there has to be like, you're not just a girlfriend to me. You're not just this. You are somebody special that I want to go for as long as they could with no hall pass.
If you really love the girl, you'll give her the marriage. Why? Because a girl, since she's, out of the womb, she's thinking about wearing that dress and walking down that aisle. That's a huge deal for girls.
I agree. But a lot of the girls, as you get older, they've done that. And they're like, you know what? I don't need that. I did the dress. I did the marriage. It's over. I just want somebody that I can grow old with and grow closer with and who's we're partners in something. And there's something to be said for that. There just isn't a nice, neat bow like married to summarize that.
Right.
If there was another word where it was like, we're not married, but we're more serious than all you people with kids who are just together because you have kids, I'm going to come up with one. For the next podcast, I'm going to come up with that word and we're going to start using it. But the men, I'm not saying this is all the men's fault. And I've been accused a lot of times of me saying, oh, you say it's all the women's fault. No, it's nobody's fault. But it's both sides' responsibility that we need to understand what we're doing right. We need to understand what we're doing wrong. And most importantly, we need to understand what we're doing differently. Because if you're over 30 and you're listening to this podcast, which is a fair amount of the people on here, you're dating differently than you were at 18 or 22 and 23. And it's not just, well, I'm older, so I date differently. No, societally, we're all dating different. Part of that is the online dating. Part of that is the shifting gender roles. And part of that is somewhere along the line, I believe a big portion of the men just flat out lost their balls.
Well, today, anybody can Google anything and find out about anybody today. Couldn't do that years ago, right? Today, a lot of exposure. So you got to be careful, right? So not to say that
But we didn't used to want to do that. We didn't want to Google somebody before we went out with them. And
we didn't have Google.
We didn't need it. All we knew about that person that we went out with 17 years ago was she was hot, and I had her number at a napkin at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right, that's
and
all the
she
guy
said,
wants.
pick me up, we're going out.
Right.
And she thought I think he made me laugh. He made my friends laugh. He bought me a drink. There was very low bar.
Right.
We didn't feel like, oh, I better find out 100 things about this guy. We didn't care. We took a shot.
Right. I was talking to a 44-year-old female, very attractive in New York yesterday, actually, about dating and whatnot. And she hadn't been married, and she wants to get married. And she was telling me, I just blanked for a second there. I had a lapse there.
You did?
I just had a lapse. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old. What did she say to me yesterday that I found interesting?
This is great content.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
This is a good podcast. Get my friend John's here. He doesn't want to talk.
I need Lana to. Can you take over for a second? I need a
Can we get
30-second break.
Can we get back to the hall pass for a second? Because I have a question about that too.
Sure.
You leave the.
I was like the kid at Disney World.
But you leave
on the last day.
You leave the house,
right?
Are you guys like, we're going to get divorced, or it's like, let's just take a break?
No. I was thrown out. I was devastated. I was tossed. Yeah, she threw me out.
So you were sad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had guns. I had to give them to my friends. That's how sad I was.
But then you were inviting these girls over to tell them how sad you are?
No. I took a little...
Is that help you?
Well, listen, the best way to get over somebody, right?
Yeah.
And she made it very clear that, she wanted out. So, I forced myself to go out.
But did you tell the women? Is that a good line? Is that like, my wife dumped me, and hope they'd be like, who would dump you?
No. I tried that. That didn't work. Okay, women.
That.
Yeah, women don't want to see that. They don't want to see the.
They don't want to see a broken man.
They don't want to see a broken man. No. But I was in rough shape for a little while. Mm-hmm. But once I got my mojo in order and figured out how to do this online app thing, right?
Well, what did you do to get your mojo?